Hi and welcome to the last part of our campaign. This is Starship Down. Part 3, The Rescue. Now if you remember in the last game, the Ironsmiths that had crashed in the SS Ironhelm here, a whole host of them kind of basically exploded some tunnels under their enemy and tried to neutralise some of the massive amounts of armour that the orcs were mustering. Now they succeeded, but at a very heavy price of the Devastators, the Terminators, and the Dreadnought that were basically slaughtered in some of the counter-attacking. Only the captain managed to get away, but you know they've inflicted a lot of damage, and that damage. The damage to the Death Dread that still survives and the Battle Wagon is ongoing because they also managed to kill the big mech, which meant that basically there was no ability for them to be repaired between games. Now the cavalry is here, as promised. The Ironsmiths have sent a vehicle to come to the rescue. This is basically a kind of Lehman Russ. However, don't be confused by the weapons. Basically, in order to carry as many survivors as they expected, they've stripped all the weapon systems internally. It's armoured, it's moving very, very fast, but it has no weapons. Its job is just to charge in, pick people up, and go. It's being escorted by two fast vehicles I use as land speeders and one Predator. With the last cannon there. Against it there's a whole host of... There's a battle wagon armed with rocket launchers on the top. Death Dread. There are some tank busters inside that truck. Is it truck? War truck. War wagon. I think it is. War wagon. There are two attack buggies here with rocket launchers. There was 4 originally. There's some death copters, which will be tricky. There is a cannon there manned by some Gretchens. There are a few knobs, not mega knobs because we've pretty much slaughtered them inside this vehicle. And I didn't count them. Again, remember this is very much a narrative campaign, but I basically created a wall of green that's going to charge the defensive positions here. And the idea behind this is basically this wall is going to try and repel that advance for long enough to get on board there. Victory conditions are basically as many dwarves get off as possible. This is the last chance for a rescue because the Ironsmith dwarves are basically running low on ammunition. If this doesn't work, they're kind of screwed. As I said, this whole campaign has been not about looking at points. Pretty much, as I said with the green tide over there, I just kept dipping my hand into the box and pulling out orcs until it looked like there was about enough there. Enough to make it interesting, to feel like dangerous, but also potentially give them a chance. Trying to get that balance between this is going to be interesting. What's the best tactics for these guys? As per usual, the dwarfs get the initiative, and then we'll get the first round. We'll see what happens from there. So end of round 1. It's a big battle, so I'm going to have to scan and pan. Over there, not surprisingly, the orcs are advancing, getting very, very close already to where the dwarves are camped, and they're going to have to start running in a minute to try and get their transport. Transport is a good deal close. However, it's taken 4 of its 9 hull points in damage already, which I'm a bit staggered about. I thought it would be really difficult to bring down. Especially with orc shooting, but it's proving pretty tricky. This guy fired his plasma that he's got as part of his being a tech marine, and he kind of exploded. Double ones, yeah. He's lost one wound already. One of the land speeders has taken some damage, and one of the corresponding war trucks has taken some damage as well. You can see over here that that's basically charged. The Death Dread is charged into combat. It has actually taken some damage. It's lost one of its weapons, which makes it a little less deadly. We've also taken the cannon out. That was done in the first round with a shot from here that didn't mess up. Apart from that, yeah, like I said, lots of damage has been done onto our kind of Baneblade super transport. If it has as bad a go next turn, it basically will barely be here. So this could be a non-rescue. Everything to play for. Round 2. Okay, the game's still going, but I just want to pause just to show you something, just so you realise how nerve-wracking this is. It's the Orc turn. They've just had their move. Not surprisingly, their war boss called a warg for this turn. Our troop transport is in position, ready to take people on. Everyone's kind of fallen back. One of the units shooting as it's done so. The Orcs got some really great run rolls and have hopped through the perimeter, and you can see they're easily within striking distance. That they're probably going to get into assault. He is really close to getting into assault. This thing was going to try and ram the back of the vehicle, and it only went and got itself immobilized, which was hilarious. And that's down to one hull point. This is really tense. Meanwhile, this is now taking 6 hull points of damage. There, it's got 3 hull points left. Everything really to play for, and it could go either way at this minute. Right now, it's not really looking brilliant for the Dwarves, but it's far from hopeless either. You'll find out what happens in just a few seconds. Well, that was an incredibly lucky escape for this group of Ironsmiths. They got charged. They did get charged by that fairly sizable band of Orc boys. They'd, however, managed to whittle the numbers down considerably, and even on the charge, take a few more down. And then it forced it to a morale roll. They kind of caused one more casualty than they had inflicted on them. And there was 9 of them, which means that basically they chased, they gave pursuit, they basically destroyed that unit. So that was pretty good going. Over here, not so great. I have lost my tech marine. The knobs have basically annihilated him because he was pretty much there on his own. It's looking kind of hopeful over here. This guy just managed to fail his charge to get into position. So that's it. Going into round 3 now. And as pretty much as I said over here, that vehicle's just down to 1 hull point. That's come behind and basically kind of whittled it down. But this is now only has 3 hull points left to get off the table. Looking tricky, but it could be done. Time, boarding call, all aboard. I think I'm going to have to leave that behind to basically. There's no way of. I don't think there's any way of getting that on board. So that's just going to have to provide covering fire, and yet another sacrifice unit, I'm afraid. It's about to be overrun. If I stop for that, and it's not good. It's time for boarding call, all aboard. Next stop, getting the hell out of here. Well, the round was going really quite well for the Ironsmiths. They managed to to basically evacuate their compound and board their troop transport. They've managed to take out the battle wagon, and they've also managed to take out that death thread that was threatening to be such a problem. But even though they've managed to take out the battle wagon that they were part of, the firepower from here and from the tank busters has just been too relentless, and they managed to basically take off the last 3 hull points. This means, unfortunately, that the Ironsmiths that were inside are now out in the open in a really hostile environment. Their compound's been overrun. They are pretty much out of ammunition at this point, and there are no survivors. Really quite a sad way to end a campaign. I was hoping that they'd get by, but that's the reason we're playing this game, is to tell a narrative, and it is sad because they all have 0 chance now of surviving. The territory is just awash with orcs. They had a chance behind the thing. This was a gambit. They were running low on ammo. They had to get out. They kept shooting orcs, but more orcs kept coming. There was more orcs coming than they had ammunition left. And this was their only hope for survival. But even so, some very lucky orc shots, plus at the tank busters, they get to reroll their hits, has just whittled down the number of hull points to the point where it's gone. It's completely gone. And it's so close. Next turn it would have been off the table, and that would have been it. Very last unit that could fired, and it took it off. There are no survivors. I mean, these units might be able to pick off like a handful of people if they try. You might be able to throw some on board. Maybe I should model for that. But there was hopefully going to be 20. But 20 survivors. If we're lucky, we might get 10 off. Trying to play it that way. But even so, it's the rescue has been a disaster. The survival has been a disaster. There's so many dwarves that have kind of sacrificed themselves on previous games to try and make the rescue happen, but it's just not happened. But it's sad, really. But you can't do a narrative knowing what the end is going to have a happy ending, and all the dwarves are going to get off. That's why it's a game. That's why you're trying to forge a narrative, and you want it to be within tipping point. I mean, and this has been, look how close it was to being okay. I really should have charged them forward as well, but I didn't think they were going to have anything more to do with the game. But basically, any survivors that come out from here, these are going to just kind of charge up, and even if they survive this, there'll be another wave. And for this, the defences has been torn to pieces. They lost their tech marine, so it's not even likely that you could take parts from here and try and replace parts from there and put 2 wreck machines together. It really is pretty hopeless. Yep. So that's how it ends, I'm afraid. And to be honest, if these tanks slowed down to pick up passengers, they just wouldn't be able to get off the field. They'd have to slow down, and there's enough fast attacks there, and they would just be hounded, and off the board. This is enemy territory. We are deep behind enemy lines. Yeah, they needed to board this and get the hell out, and that's not been possible. They're gone. Thanks for joining us for this campaign. I hope you found it really interesting. It has been fun just playing around with the rules and working out what works, what doesn't. Hoping we're going to incorporate this into a future campaign. And I've been going through the results of each battle with Cameron, and he's been quite interested in trying to do something like this again. For now, signing off. Catch you later, and don't forget to subscribe.